It's alright.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Hunt them down.
Yo guys, what is up? Max here on Borderlands 3 video, and today we're going to be breaking down all of the shields that work on Flex Pet with the new Take This skill. Now, this skill is extremely powerful and it works interestingly well with anointments and the different shields. Today we're going to be breaking down everything you guys need to know about understanding how to get the most out of this new skill and this new purple tree. I did a video breaking down the whole tree in general, but today we're going to get into the science and really in depth with it. If you guys do enjoy the video, if you learn anything new, this took a lot of time and testing of all these different shields, so I really do appreciate y'all hitting the like button, maybe hitting the subscribe button, and guys, with that, let's get right into it. Alright, so we're going to cover the major things that you guys need to know about how this works first, and then we'll get into the specific synergies with the different shields. Now, the first thing that you guys need to know, and this is huge, is that the pet does not get the anointment that is on your shield through this skill. So, for example, if you're using an on-action skill start, Nova Burner, or if you have an ASE on your shield, the anoint doesn't matter because the pet does not get the anoint, which is unfortunate. But for example, if you were to use like the Nova Burner with on-action skill start, activate any effects that trigger on shield break and fill, and you were to use rack attacks, for example, to spam them, you'll see a Nova, most likely, but that is just because every time you do something like that, you're gonna proc success imminent. Whenever Flak or their pet shields break or is filled, they and their pet create a radiation nova. Now, the radiation nova is triggered because this anoint on action skill start, activate any effects that trigger on shield break or fill, depletes your shield and fills it in like a matter of a second. And that is proccing success imminent because your pet shield will break and fill. So you're gonna get 2 novas from this, which is very cool, and success imminent does a lot of damage, but you are not going to proc the frozen heart on your pet by using an on-action skill start. You're not going to proc the stinger on your pet. You're not going to proc the Nova Burner. So understanding how to use these Nova shields on your pet, because spamming action skills doesn't work, is really, really important. Now, the next thing to understand about these shields is that when you put them on your pet, they become pet damage. Now, this pet damage is very cool because any effects that the shield does becomes pet damage. Now, this is super important because, one, we can buff pet damage like crazy and subsequently buff the effects these shields do substantially, but it's also really cool because these shields now can crit. Now, this tree has a lot of synergy with crit because whenever your pet scores a critical hit, it's going to refill your shields with fuzzy math, but it'll also give you bonus damage. So you're able to have these shield effects, like for example a red suit shield, which will proc a dot on an enemy. That dot will constantly heal your shield, but it also constantly heals the pet shields. Now, it'll also proc Monkey Do to give you bonus damage, but another thing to understand is that your pet, any of the damage that they're doing, if you have respect into fuzzy math, is going to be healing their shields. And from my testing, the shields that work slightly better with this skill tree and this setup is shields that are going to be doing things while they're active and not while they're depleted. So, for example, the Nova Burner is really, really strong, but I have been enjoying the Faulty Star more because it's when damage changed to trigger a Nova around the attacking enemy versus the Nova Burners on shield break and fill, and your shield is basically going to be full a lot of the time on your pit. So things like the Faulty Star I've found have been better than the Nova Burner. Now, I'll talk about my favorite shields in a second, but I just wanted you guys to understand that. Another thing to understand is something like the Stinger shield, which does a melee Nova, does not do melee damage when it triggers on the pet. It does a pet damage Nova instead. So it's really good, but it doesn't work with, for example, your melee artifacts. If you're using like a Shockstone static charge, your melee Nova from your pet won't actually proc artifacts. Another thing that's important to know. Another big thing that's really important to understand with these new skill trees is how pets work with Hollow Point. Now, Hollow Point, killing an enemy with a critical hit causes an explosion around them. Hollow Point gets, I believe, environmental mayhem scaling and hits like a truck. Now, your pets could proc Hollow Point before, but now they can proc it all the time because your pets are going to be critting a lot with Throat Ripper, with things like Go for the Eyes. Now when they kill enemies, they proc Hollow Point, and that is where the craziest high damage comes from. Hollow Point will go from 500 to 800 million damage when proccing on a crit because of its mayhem scaling and the pet scaling, and is really, really strong. And things that can crit more often to proc Hollow Point will be more beneficial to you than things that don't proc as often. All right, let's talk about some specific shields. Now, different shields will work in different scenarios for different builds. I'm mainly just going to be walking through a lot of the shields and how they work, showcasing if they're good or not. We might as well talk about the Nova Burner. Now, Nova Burner is very strong and one of the highest burst damage of the shields that you can use. However, I was a little underwhelmed by this thing because the Nova doesn't trigger as often on this thing. You're going to get your incendiary damage on shield break and fill, and I've got Nova Burner Nova, and definitely like a top 4 shield for this, but I was expecting this to be the best shield in my opinion, and it isn't, which is just interesting to know. We have a ton of shields to talk about. Let's talk about the Messy Breakup. The Messy Breakup is actually really good with this setup. Now, the Messy Breakup, when you are accompanied by a small drone that will fire at enemies, dealing damage per shot, and when your shield breaks, a temporary drone will come to your aid. Now, when I was using this, the Messy Breakup would spawn, I had a total of 6 drones. 6 drones, 3 on me, 3 on my pet, all firing. Now, the drones themselves don't do a lot of damage, but there's 6 of them, and they're all firing at the same time, and they were constantly proccing Monkey Do because the drones that are spawned by the pet count as pet damage and are pet critical hits, and whenever the pet scores critical hit or I score critical hit, so my drones or the pet drones, they proc this shield fuzzy math regen. And so while it wasn't a great damage shield, I found the Messy Breakup was some of the best survivability because you just have all these crits going on all the time, proccing a ton of different things, and I was really, really pleased with how the Messy Breakup worked. Next up, let's talk about the red suit. Now, the red suit does a aura around your pet, which will constantly do damage. Now, I think I would have liked this a lot more had I not been using, for the most part, Atomic Aroma. Atomic Aroma is really, really strong with this setup because it's going to constantly proc a dot, and if you guys haven't seen the trend already, dots proc critical hits, dots keep up your shields and give you more damage on your shots. So it's a little redundant. There is a internal cooldown on fuzzy math, so if you have 10 dots going versus like 2 dots going, it seems like you're just gonna get the same amount of benefit from both. As long as you have those dots up, you're gonna be critting, and I didn't need 2. So red suit, cool, but not anything too groundbreaking. The Frozen Heart, very cool. The Nova is going to heal the pet and freeze a lot of things. This shield, once again, works on deplete and wasn't as amazing as I thought it might be, but it still was really, really strong. Definitely top 5 shields. Frozen Heart, really good at crowd controlling, and your pets are gonna be on top of your enemies all the time if you are using Game & Burst, so I like the Red Fang. Next up, the revenge-inator. Revenge-inator is really cool because it throws a free grenade that you deploy. Now, the War Loader bot also procs your own grenades, whatever grenade you have equipped, is proc from that. The revenge-inator also drops the grenade that you have equipped, and if you're using a peregrine, you can drop the grenade with rack attacks. This way you're able to just spam out grenades, and your pet and you will be proccing the revenge-inator. The one thing to note about the revenge-inator is there is a 10-second internal cooldown. It says is a short cooldown. It's a 10-second cooldown. In terms of Borderlands things, 10 seconds is kind of long. So just know that the grenades are not going to be spawning like crazy from the revenge-inator. They're only once every 10 seconds, which is cool, but it's not as like crazy overwhelming with grenade spam as you might think. Next up, let's talk about the one-shotter and amp shields. Now, amp shields do work with pets that shoot. The warloader gets the amp shots, and I was doing a ton of damage with the one-shotter, giving it to the warloader, proccing. As you guys may see, a lot of my shields I'm using after using Attack Command, Consume All Terror, and Flex Pets gain 200% bonus incendiary damage for a short time. This is incredibly strong. This is a Terror Anoint. You can get it right now, and you should be focusing, if when these skill trees launch, you want to get the most out of a pet build, try to get shields with this Anoint because it is silly strong. It applies to all of the damage that your pet's doing and is just a huge pet buff. I was using a Face Puncher with melee attacks, applying that terror, using my Attack Command to consume the terror, gain that bonus incendiary damage for a short time. It works out beautifully. And lastly, for shields, we're going to talk about the Faulty Star. Faulty Star was one of my favorites that I used because it's when damage chance to trigger an over on the attacking enemy. It doesn't have to do too much with it triggers more if it's full, but your shield is almost always full on your pet, and because this is a on full thing versus a deplete, I found that the Faulty Star worked better than something like Nova Burner because I was getting way more Novas out of the Faulty Star because once again it procs when full, and your pet will be self-sufficiently charging its shield by doing these things, which will be critting. And consistent wise, I really enjoyed the Faulty Star. I definitely think you guys are gonna enjoy it when you get your hands on this because it's constant Novas on a ton of enemies. You're gonna do it, your pet's gonna do it, and it's very noticeable when it's happening. Definitely put the Faulty Star in the top of the top shields that you can use with this because it is more of an on full attack than a on deplete. Now, there's a bunch of other things that work interestingly, and if you guys want any other shield questions, if there's a shield that I didn't test here that you want to ask about, be sure to drop a comment because I will do my best to test them and give you guys anything you guys need to know. Old gods are nice with like a radiation old god, giving it to your pet, but it's not as like noticeable as the other things. The pet does proc version O.M circles, which you can then go stand and boost your action skill. Version O.M is also really solid. And guys, that's it for the video. There's a ton of shields that work really well. The pet does not get the Anoint, and there's a lot of crazy interactions and ways to get creative with this. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did learn anything new, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, guys. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!